This is for the awakened, the warriors of light, the seekers of truth, the ones who refuse to surrender to a world that tells them who to be.
This is a call to arms, to every heart that still beats with the fire of liberation, to the minds that refuse to be shackled by the illusions of fate, to the spirit that knows. We are the creators, the architects, the authors of our own stories.
It's time to take back our power, to become the change we seek in the world. For we are the revolution.
Welcome to Sage and Siva.
Your evolution begins now.
So, are we jumping right in?
Yeah, I think we should just
Okay, let's do it.
hop
All right.
hop in.
I like it. Ugh.
We can edit a bunch of crap out too. Thank God.
Yes, thank God for that. So when I think about just holistic health in general, I think about mind, body, spirit connection and viewing the person as a whole instead of as separate parts. I feel like in our culture today, there's been this very false idea of separation, and we just we're not familiar at all with the concept of how to look at the whole person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of everything. If you think about it, even like the education system is broken down into subjects, and the medical system, their specialties. You know, you have your heart specialists, you have people that work on your brain and everything. And like none of the pieces talk together. So even within its individual lane, it's segregated even further.
Absolutely, yeah. Symptoms and isolation, systems of the body and isolation, yeah. So looking at the things in our culture that kind of perpetuate this idea of separation, definitely the first that comes to my mind is the biomedical model. We're focused on diagnosis and prescribing, and so much so that our doctors are financially incentivized to do so. The standard American diet is basically just fertilizer for disease and disconnection within our bodies. Like you said, the education system, the economic system, even the concept of like a 9 to 5, and
kind of like we're immediately segregated from like our natural rhythms and stuff. For some reason, I'm thinking about, after childbirth, historically and like naturally, we're supposed to like nurture our babies for like 6 months after birth, and we're not even capable of doing that. Immediately, they're ripped out of our hands. Essentially, not quite that dramatic, but
it feels like it.
It feels like that. And a nurse carries them away, and they're
Right.
being weighed and having all these tests run. But it's like, can we not wait for that? Like, can we just be together for a moment?
Yeah.
And 6 weeks after that, like they're put into daycare systems, and
6 weeks is just like mind blowing to me. Like if you've had a baby, that 6 weeks is nothing.
No.
Nothing. I mean, to think that like that is the extent of that like really immersive family bonding and fathers don't even get anywhere close to that.
No.
And then we look at things like social media and just like any type of media that we consume, and it's just the final kind of knife in the back of just distraction. So it's like we're so disconnected from ourselves, and then the little bit of time that we aren't slaving away for someone else or participating in an education system that prepares us to work for someone else, we're just distracting ourselves. We're numbing ourselves because the whole process is so painful, and we're just going through life asleep, disconnected. So yeah, then you see rampant consumerism, you see mental health decline because we're comparing ourselves to these things that aren't even real, and that's only going to continue to get worse as AI develops. So
yeah. Well, and then you add in like societal pressures of like, especially men, I feel like you're not allowed to express emotion. I think we're all kind of taught to suppress our feelings and paint this pretty picture for the outside world, but not just for social media, but for your social circles and everything else.
For sure.
Like keeping up with the Jones syndrome.
Yeah.
So then that further separates you even from your emotions and your own mental health even. So again, it's just further separating from the whole. Just keeps dicing and chopping it.
Right.
Smaller parts. But.
Exactly. And that's just societally. within our families too. How many of us have, family trauma or dysfunctional family systems where we have to suppress and we develop all of these, maladaptive behaviors to just simply cope and exist without going crazy. Yeah.
I don't know if mine worked.
I don't think mine did at all.
Might be a touch crazy.
But obviously, it hasn't always been this way. And there are, all throughout history, all over the world, the mind body spirit connection was something that was not just like theorized, it was known, it was felt, and it was a way of life for, many cultures. Yoga in India, traditional Chinese medicine. I know a lot of indigenous cultures, that was, a huge pillar, and even Greek philosophers, the mind and the body especially were just absolutely linked, like could not be separated. That was a foundation of their beliefs. So
if you think about it, like how do we move away from that in the first place? It was so much a part of their daily life. What happened? Where was the disconnect? When did things start separating?
Rockefeller.
You said it on me.
I think like Industrial Revolution, I think was a big proponent of that separation. It and even like astrologically, the timing, like it just, that is when it started a whole new like cycle of life for us. I feel like anytime you see like a period with a lot of tech advancements, which is what we're about to experience again, it just completely shifts, and just more than shifts, like upends, uproots our entire way of living. And so I see that happening now, and I'm hoping that instead of just continuing in that direction, we can choose a different way and go back to our roots instead of, further disconnecting. But
I feel like when I say that to certain people, they immediately think, well, we can't just give up our technology. Like, no, we're not talking about completely denying technology and medical advances. Like, we're not here to discredit the advances that we've made. It's just like we have to learn how to balance both.
Oh, absolutely.
Which kind of ties into the whole like balancing your mind, body, spirit, emotion. Like we have to balance all of those and find harmony with the ancestral wisdom and then the modern technology that we have now.
For sure. Yeah. As above, so below. Everything that we see outside of us is just a mirror of what's going on
within
inside
us.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the biggest signs to me is the mental health crisis. Not only in our adults, I think we've all kind of become desensitized to that in a way, but our children, like
younger and younger and younger.
They're on medications younger and younger, and like to me that is a huge red flag that there's something out of alignment, and like we need to pay attention.
Right.
So that's, to me, that's why this concept is so important, because we've got to start integrating the two to kind of stop this from spreading.
It's like we have to relearn how to be human. Yes. We have no coping mechanisms. We have no like assigned meaning to anything, which I think is why it's all so distressing, is because we can't make meaning of it. I mean, in indigenous cultures, for example, things like suicidal ideation were seen as like a rite of passage, that dark night of the soul. It was like, awesome, you're ready for growth. And they had all this community support, and just viewing it through that lens completely transformed those feelings for the individual, which is amazing.
Yeah. Well, even the concept of aging, it's and death even are almost taboo. Like people don't want to talk about that, but those are sacred. Like to have the gift of aging is sacred, and that's something we've just completely lost sight of. And death is the ultimate transition. That, I mean, here in America, like we treat death like this secret thing that nobody wants to look at. Like you paint a corpse basically. Like you don't actually see what death looks like when someone's passing away. You know, they keep it very hush.
Oh yeah,
you
and then
know,
they put them in this casket in the ground that's literally never going to decompose. It is just taking up a bunch of space in the earth.
Yeah, again, separated.
Yeah.
From where they came from.
Damn, that's poetic.
We're separated from our mother. But yeah, it's just things that are ingrained in our DNA almost, and we've just lost sight of it for the sake of advancement.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're realizing that had a purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, the sake of advancement for a very select few. Not for
who's advancing here?
Yeah, exactly. Well, one thing I want to talk about is disease. So I read The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, and I loved it. It was a very transformative read for me. And one of the things that I find really interesting is he goes into the origins of disease and how disease is this lifelong process that, of course, is multifactorial, and our traumas are a huge contributing factor to that. So he even goes so far as to give a bunch of examples of how specific personality traits are linked to certain diseases, which is fascinating.
Very fascinating.
But here is a quote from the author. She goes by V. She wrote the Vagina Monologues, but she had an interview with him in the book. And so she says, "A disease is not like a thing. It is energy flow. It's a current. It is evolution or devolution that occurs when you're not awake and connected, and trauma is essentially ruling your life. I think it's such a mistake to identify it as a thing because that makes it hard matter when it's in fact a much more psychological, spiritual, emotional connection." So in Western medicine, the mind-body connection is either ignored or just blatantly suppressed. But I think we're starting to see a slight shift in that narrative. With I think it was 2014, Bessel van der Kolk wrote The Body Keeps the Score, and that was like an instant classic and kind of just one of like the first, I feel like, experiences people had being introduced to that concept of our minds and bodies being connected, or at least reintroduced. Again, I think we all know on some level, but we've just been indoctrinated to think that they're separate, But he cites a couple of studies. So among parents who lost an adult son to an accident or military conflict, the authors reported increased occurrence of lymphatic and hematological malignancy, along with skin and lung cancer. In a Danish study, grieving parents had double the risk of MS. Cancer nurses noted that the people with cancer were particularly nice, and they were able to kind of predict who was going to be diagnosed with cancer based on their personality. And that's now being supported by research. Niceness is also associated with ALS. Anyway, many, many examples that link, these specific diseases to personality characteristics that we've adapted over time just to be able to function in society.
It's really interesting because I feel like science is just now catching up to a lot of the things that people just seem to know inherently, like especially indigenous cultures and things. I'm thinking of a study they did, and it was actually the Army did the study, and it was in 1993, where they wanted to see the effects of emotions on DNA. So this particular, I can't remember what it's called. It's like the phantom effect of DNA. Maybe I'll have to look that up and maybe link it in the notes or something.
Oh yeah.
But so in the study they swabbed the contestants or participants, I guess would be the right word, and took their DNA and put it in a container that removed like the photons and everything from it, so they could kind of monitor it while the participant was in a completely separate building, and they were put in front of a screen with all kinds of different videos playing. So
Mhm.
with the intent of evoking certain emotions.
Right.
And it was instantaneous. So
Mhm.
when the participant would feel the emotion, they would see a direct and immediate
Quantum
reaction.
entanglement.
Yes.
Yep.
And this is stuff, this was 93, you
Yeah.
know, there's no telling what we have discovered since then that just further backs the stuff up. To that same study, it did not matter the distance. So they would, I think the farthest distance they got to is 3,500 miles,
Wow.
and it never stopped. It was instantaneous. So that in itself, to me, says emotions in our physical being, they're the same. Like they have an immediate effect on each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And what I love about that too is, I think we all would be willing to admit that, like, yes, some sort of like major traumatic event is going to have an impact on your health. But like, these are not major traumatic events. These are just like the personality that you develop, the emotions you experience on a day-to-day basis still have this very profound impact on our physical bodies.
Yeah.
So
well, and you think too about that study they did on water. I cannot remember the guy's name. I'm horrible with
Emoto.
names. Emoto. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Where he literally just put a word on like a vase of water.
Those are so amazing.
Yeah. So even our thoughts can affect water molecules and how they are designed. Think of how much water is in our body.
Yeah.
And like how many of our thoughts are negative in a day.
Yes,
especially during like road rage. You know, it's wild how they're all connected, and we don't we don't fully know the ripple effects of each and every decision, whether it's the thoughts that we're allowing to play in our mind, or the foods we're putting in our body, or the words that we're saying to our neighbors. Like we don't know the ripple effect of that fully, or where that's going to go. So I don't know. It's just fascinating to me. It's like the butterfly effect.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, on like an individual and collective scale, we just are truly, creating the reality around us, whether we acknowledge it or not. So we can either be creating a reality that is not what we want and doesn't serve us or humanity, or we can decide to take the reins and intentionally create what we want.
And we're creating something whether we take the reins or not. So
for sure,
I think that's kind of the underlying theme of everything that you and I are doing together. Honestly, it's like taking our power back to create the future that we want to see. So very, very nice. Very cool.
Someone's got to do it. I guess it's me and Kayla. So another quote from The Myth of Normal, just to maybe kind of start to shift gears a little bit, is: there is nothing novel about the notion of the mind and body being intricately linked. If anything, what is new is the belief, tacitly held by many well-meaning doctors, that they are separable. Despite Western medicine's artificial cleaving of the two, most people still know, if only on a gut level, that what they think and how they feel have everything to do with each other. And, that's just such like a profound thing to hear, when that is so not the typical experience that you have in the biomedical model. The pendulum has just swung completely to the side of profit over everything. We prioritize profit over literally everything, even our health in our own healthcare system. We've become obsessed and programmed to expect this quick fix, these immediate results with little to no effort.
Yeah. I read a book called The Comfort Crisis, and again, I could not tell you the author's name because I'm horrible with names, but he talks about how our ancestors were like apex predators. Okay, like they could run down a mammoth for miles, to the point where the mammoth is exhausted.
Yeah.
And then kill said mammoth with a spear that they
fashioned
with their own hands, and then cut up this huge beast that weighed probably tons, and then carry it all back to the village to feed their families. And like those were things that humans were capable of at a certain point in time. There are people that can't even walk down to the end of the driveway now without getting winded.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say it's a large portion of America, but anyways, we won't go there. It's just, again, further giving away our power,
right?
Whether it's mental, emotional power or physical power. We just, have you seen Wall-E?
Yes, I have. Yes, honestly. Well, I mean, yeah, our technologies and our societies have adapted so much faster than our species could ever evolve. So yeah, we do have, it's like all of this just untapped potential in literally any way you want to look at that. And I think, I don't know, I think we just get sort of overwhelmed by that almost. And we're not, none of the systems that we are, ushered into in our society encourage any sort of exploration into that potential.
Yeah.
It's just doing as you're told. You can't question anything. You can't be too much of an individual. And so, from almost from birth, it's like this is just pounded into us. So like any little spark of anything is just suppressed. And I think it's just making us freaking sick and depressed and just feeling this profound lack of purpose and direction. And I think it's gone so far now that we've all just kind of like forgotten how to even get back to that. So we're all looking for a savior, and that's where you see this like extremist, political views and whatever else. It's like we're just like desperate for someone to tell us how to fix it.
Yeah, a part of being human is having the ability to be creators, like you said earlier. A lot of us are unaware that we have that power, and so we constantly feel like something's missing, not realizing it's just the autonomy and, like you said, the inspiration and the ability to create, whether that's art or technology or just a family unit. Like, we are creators. That's what we're supposed to do. And we've been highly removed from that. We're looking at everybody else to tell us what to think, what to eat, what to wear, what movies to watch. Like, we largely don't make those decisions ourselves. We're on autopilot almost.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And then wonder why something's missing.
Right.
Like, why am I so sad? Why do I feel like I'm not reaching my full potential? Well, it's because you're not. There's so much more out there for you.
Yeah. And then we feel these things and we go to a medical doctor and they say, here, take this.
Here's a pill for
and
that.
It just literally, I mean, in psychiatry as well, whether our body speaks to us, our mind, our soul, spirit speaks to us either through, these more like emotional, mental symptoms or physical symptoms. And pretty much across the board, we're taking these medications that none of them address root causes. We're just like so completely unconcerned with the root causes. It's just suppression of symptoms, and then in turn, suppression of the very thing that makes us human.
Yeah. Well, and kind of to your point too, like our body does tell us. Our body does tell us what we need, and it's almost like society discredits that in a way to where you don't trust what your body's telling you. So depression is a message. Like your body is telling you. Actually, I read a quote somewhere that's saying depression is the lack of creativity. Even like you need to step up and create something. Anger, it's telling you something. Like all of our emotions that we suppress are actually messengers.
Absolutely.
Disease is a messenger. In my yoga studies, it's actually disease, that physical manifestations are actually your body's last resort,
last line of defense. Yes. Absolutely.
Like the messages keep getting louder and louder because we're not listening,
right?
And we're not listening because we forgot how to speak its language.
We don't even know how to stop being indoctrinated for 2 seconds. I mean, we get home, we turn on the TV. While we're watching the TV, we're also scrolling on our phones. Like, we can't handle any amount of silence or introspection, reflection. I mean, we're just like, freaking tell me. what to do now,
Well,
please, before I freak out.
And there shouldn't be shame around that either, because it's literally designed
It's
to be that way.
intentional.
It is
Yeah.
intentionally
Addictive.
created to be
Yeah.
addictive. There was a documentary created about Facebook, and how they literally have like this avatar of you where they know exactly what you like, what you don't like,
Yeah.
how to keep you engaged on Facebook for the maximum amount of time as possible. And like that technology keeps getting smarter and smarter. So don't have shame around that.
Right.
Like, why can't I get off my phone?
Right.
Because it's everything about it, from the little red notifications to the like concept. It's all designed to keep you there as long as possible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
But being awakened to that and having the awareness around it, and then taking responsibility for it.
Right.
I think there's, again, that power element. Like, you're taking that back. Like, I can be on this for a few minutes, and that's cool, but now I'm going to go do something else.
Right.
Just being aware that you are being almost manipulated.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's like a power that I feel like we have really lost, because again, we're obsessed with a quick fix. There are so many things prescribed to us that, like, how often now do people really have to make a decision and be like, no, I'm going to change this. I'm going to get myself healthier. I'm going to, and I don't want this to be perceived the wrong way, but like, get out of this depression. I know I'm not saying there's like never a case for medication, but how often do people just not even try? There's no attempt to change any habits. There's certainly no attempt to like look for a root cause and figure out where this is coming from. It's like,
Well, I think people that do say, let me look at this from a natural perspective first. There's so much misinformation out there. Like, it's like wading through mud. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it the keto diet? Is it the Atkins diet? At one point, they were saying that eggs were bad and like would kill you, and red meat was horrible, and like, so there's so much misinformation, because those are largely like they're not regulated.
Right.
I think, again, it's overwhelming, and people, they don't trust that inner knowing.
Right.
Which is basically your compass. It's going to help you navigate anything. I think they almost give up.
Yeah.
So, and again, like, we do look to the professionals because that's what we're taught.
Right.
You know everything about this topic, so I'm going to go to you. But it is so segregated. So yes, your doctor knows everything about medicine. Maybe not nutrition.
Yeah.
Maybe not physical movement or chiropractic care even. And like, yeah, they're all part of the body, but like, they're not all communicating.
Right.
So was it Deepak Chopra, actually, in his book, The Book of Secrets, talks about how the body is an ecosystem. Yeah. And I thought it was really cool that ecosystem, if you break that word down, eco means home. I don't know, just like, resonated with me for some reason. But our bodies are ecosystems. And then outside of that, even though like humans are multidimensional beings, we have a physical body, we have an emotional body, we have a mental body, we have a spiritual body. That in itself is an ecosystem. And so at one time, we knew how to balance all of those things. We've lost track of that. But if we could get that back and have harmony amongst all of those things, and ultimately I say us, ourselves, because that's all we have power over anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
We cannot change other people as much as we want to. As much as we want to think we can, we don't have that influence over them. So taking responsibility for us and what we bring to the world, I think, is ultimately how we make lasting change.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, I think the best thing we can do is inspire others to do the same and lead by example, and show through action what, how to move us forward. I mean, I feel like that's what any good leader does, and it's a quality that has been just completely absent from leadership in the last, I don't know, like 20 years maybe, is inspiring people to take action to improve the world. It's like everyone out there is just yelling everything all the time.
It's very warlike on every front. Everything is just trying to prove the other person wrong. There's no harmony. There's no harmony. You and I both have backgrounds in marketing too, so we can both kind of attest to how easy it is to paint a picture, to make something look like it could be your salvation, and convince you even that you need said product, because this is how you're going to have happiness and harmony. I think ultimately that's what we all want.
Yeah,
is to be happy and have harmony and balance in our lives. You cannot rely on social media or marketing or anybody that benefits from you purchasing their products. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, you can't trust that anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to manipulate and make things look like there's something that they're not.
Right. Yeah. We're not going to get anywhere without actually doing the hard internal work and being committed to it, showing up even when you aren't seeing the fruits of it yet, and like do that for literally the rest of your life, and it never ends. Like, that's not a fun sell, but it's the truth.
Actually, that's a really good segue into the quote by Carl Jung, where he says, "A million zeros joined together do not, unfortunately, add up to one. Ultimately, everything depends on the quality of the individual." So if you don't like how the world is right now, buckle up, Buttercup, and get to work on yourself.
Yeah.
Because that truly is the only way that we're going to make any kind of lasting change, is take ownership of this. And by doing that, what does that mean? That means learning to speak your body's language, taking back your power, not being so easily manipulated, integrating the instrument that we have here, and learning to find your own peace and harmony in your life.
100%. Yeah. Ultimately, it really does just boil down to the individual's journey. And I kind of hate the word journey. Like, I feel like I'm talking about The Bachelor or something. But it's a real journey. Yeah. So I think we're going to next time really get into kind of like how to restore the mind, body, spirit connection, how to start speaking your body's language, how to listen. And, you know, not to like dive too much into what we might be talking about next time, but, you know, for me, the best place to start, and I literally just did this today, is just noticing like the physical sensations that you feel when an emotion arises. And like, honestly, you would be so shocked at how like just doing that completely shifts your thinking. Like, I was thinking about something that upset me today, and it's hard to remember to do this when like, okay, like, what am I feeling, and how would I put into words what it is that I'm feeling? It felt like a weight just pushing down on my chest and like going into my throat. It was just this like horribly uncomfortable feeling. And like the second I could verbalize that, it was gone. It was gone. Yeah. And so it's funny. It's like we do want to reunite with the humanness in us, yet at the same time, in order to evolve as a species, which is what I feel like our consciousness needs to evolve. I think that's the next step for humanity if we want to continue to live on this earth without destroying it or each other. We have to like learn how to override our humanness at certain times. And I feel like that's the perfect example. Like, we can experience the emotion without letting it completely overtake us. We can observe from this higher plane the emotion, and again, take the reins instead of the other way around. Yes. You know, operating from this lower, because it was a lower energy that I was feeling. It was a lower vibrational feeling, and like, I shouldn't let that dictate anything. Is that gonna like, is operating out of that place going to lead anywhere good ever? Nope. Nope.
No, I like what you said though about kind of reining it in, and then being able almost to have say over how you choose
transmute
to
it.
transmute it, but also like taking authority over it. Like, do I really want this to ruin my day? It's like looking at it from a different perspective. I also love that you described your emotions with physical sensations. You said you had the pressure on your chest, and it felt like it was coming up into your throat. So even when we are describing emotions, it's like a burning in our gut when we're angry, or
Absolutely.
A frog in our throat when we're trying not to cry. Like, even that in itself shows, hey, there's a little bit of a connection here.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I'm glad you said that. The other day I was scrolling on Instagram and I stumbled upon this post that was like, it was talking about infidelity. It was like this girl had looked at her boyfriend's phone and like saw all these messages or something. And, you know, I'm always looking at the comments on things because I always want to see like how people perceive the content. But anyway, like I'm not even kidding when I say it was probably like 90% of the comments were just describing the physical sensations that these people had experienced in a similar situation. So yeah, I mean, if we, it's undeniable if we think about how often we do that, and just in the language that we use to describe these experiences that we have. And I think, you know, it can really click and put it into perspective when you see like that these are shared, you know, like a lot of these people had the same physical sensation from this particular trigger or event. Crazy.
I bet they had the raging fire in their bellies. If we're talking about infidelity.
Oh yeah, stomach dropping, like, fire in their chest. Yeah,
I'm about to rage.
Yeah.
It's really funny because when I'm trying to really instill emotional intelligence in my own kids, because that was something that I didn't have access to when I was growing up. But I kind of explain emotions to them as a horse, as a wild horse. And so our emotions can run wild, like a wild horse.
Yeah.
And they can cause damage. And wild horses are capable of killing people, and they can really hurt you, and they can hurt others, and they can destroy property. But if you take said wild horse and you learn how to tame it, well, now you can work with that horse, and you can get places faster, and like it can pull a plow for you, and like you can utilize it to your advantage. So I try to tell them to tame their horse anytime they're having big emotions. And so yesterday Charlie's been having some big emotions lately, and she kind of reacts in anger. She's a little hot-headed. She's got the Hispanic blood.
So are my boys, Lord.
But she kind of self-regulated, and I was really impressed with that. But she said, Mom, I'm really angry right now, and I just need a few minutes to myself. I'm like, okay.
That's amazing.
I respect that.
Yeah.
And later on that evening, we were coming back from gymnastics, and she said, Mom, do you think you can help me tame my horse? So like she knew, like, but I mean, to me, that was taming the horse. Like, she recognized what she was feeling. She knew that she needed some space, so she can kind of de-escalate the situation. Right. And she was even self-reflecting on it. So like, what more can you ask?
Right. No, that's
from
amazing.
A 7-year-old.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that. I think especially like for kids, that's something they can kind of like visualize. So I'll have to use that one with the boys. I think they'll like that.
Well, even when I have emotional reactions, I try to use that kind of verbiage with them too. Is it falling off?
No, I keep hitting mine, and I also keep looking at yours to make sure it's still on and not red.
I'm very handy.
No, I've bumped into mine like repeatedly.
Anyway,
sorry.
No, it's fine.
You use that language with yourself.
Oh yeah. When I'm talking to them too, because I also want them to know, like, hey, Mom has emotions too, and like that's fine. Like, we're all human. That's part of being human. It's how we choose to. Are we gonna let this horse run wild and cause some damage, or are we gonna use it to our advantage, or keep it tame, keep it contained?
Yeah.
but yeah, I thought it was so funny and like a really proud mom moment.
Yes.
Had to brag a little bit.
Yeah, you should be proud.
So
That's
cute.
honestly awesome. Yeah, and it seems like such a simple thing to do, but when you aren't telling yourself to notice or be aware of it, like you can bypass that physical, like it does not even register if you're not looking for it, and the next thing you know, you're just reacting. It's like it's one motion, the physical sensation into a reaction, into like yelling, screaming, punching, whatever it is. So,
are you a puncher?
no.
Just curious.
No.
I've never punched anybody in my life.
I haven't really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Once or twice.
I mean, no. I did take Krav Maga, okay?
Oh.
And I freaking loved it. I have been dying for years now to get back into some sort of like mixed martial arts, because first of all, I mean, I want to be a badass.
Right.
And secondly, like I need that. I do, because I definitely lean on more of like the angry side of the spectrum when it comes to emotions. Like I'm much more likely to be pissed off than I am depressed about something. So
do you use Krav Maga as a exit for your emotions?
I would like to. It's been many, many years since I took it, and I don't think I was using it in that way then, but like I could definitely see that now. And even when we did that Reiki session, do you remember Ella saying that? She's like, you need some sort of like explosive. Yeah, she said there's a bunch of anger in one of my knees. She's like, oh, this guy, he's angry. Which sounds funny, but I mean, I totally believe it. So yeah, maybe just my knee. I'll send my knee to Krav Maga.
Oh my god. Angry knee. Wow. Yes, but to your point, there is a direct connection even in that aspect too, of like having an emotion and going to the gym and like releasing that way.
Yes, absolutely. Your body keeps the score. Your body holds the trauma,
baby. But anyways, this clearly has been a very long overview of all the things that we plan on talking about in said podcast. There's lots of good content coming.
Absolutely.
Lots
I'm so excited.
Content.
So many contents. They're all so good. Yeah, I definitely see how like people podcasting can go off on tangents now.
Yes.
Like that's really unprofessional.
I think we kind of knew this was going to be the hardest episode to record. One, because it was the first one, but two, we have so much we want to talk about. So trying to give an overview was like, oh my gosh, like where do we start?
Oh yeah, mind body spirit connection is a pretty broad place to start for sure.
Yes, for sure. With that being said, if you are on your own personal journey, please do not get discouraged, because there is, again, like there's so much information out there. It's hard to weed through all of it. We just hope that you keep coming back, keep listening, put your comments below. Let us know what you think. If you have specific topics that you want more information on, let us know that too, because we love some research. We've both kind of been diving into this for years at this point. So yeah, we'd love to chat with you about it. So let us know what you want to hear. And
yeah, I am so excited to get to know you guys and to just keep the conversation going.
Yeah. Till next time.
Yeah. Thanks.